Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Jay Stevens Podcast. This is episode number 80, dedicated to a member of the greatest show on turf, Mr. Isaac Bruce. And as always, thank you for listening and downloading to another episode of the podcast. On today's episode, we have one of my good buddies, a gentleman that's been on the podcast twice before. Mr. Garrett Grandy is joining me. Garrett is a lifelong New England Patriots fan, and when the news broke that Tom Brady is going to be leaving New England to go down to Tampa Bay to continue his football career, it hit Garrett a little bit hard, a little bit different than most people, so I brought Garrett on to talk about that. We talked about a few other NFL free agency moves, signings, things like that Garrett has been itching and has been messaging me about quite a bit. He had a lot to say, and trust me, he surely does. But before we get to our conversation, I want to talk to you a little bit about just how you're doing. Are you okay? How are you doing? By now, your state, most states in the United States of America right now, I believe at least 30 have a stay-at-home order issued by their governor, and that brings a lot of uncertainty. COVID-19, the outbreak, the pandemic that has taken over not just the United States of America, but also the world. There's a lot of questions that people have. When's it going to stop? When will we get life to go back to normal? Will life go back to normal? Will we ever get sports back? Will I ever get to work with my people again? Will I ever get to see my family, my grandma, my grandpa? I work with someone. Now, my job is deemed essential in Indiana, so I am still currently working. But I work with someone that has currently said they're coming to work and working like everyone else is, but they're not going around their grandma because they don't want to potentially pass it on to grandma and have grandma have a bad outbreak and be in the hospital due to a bad reaction to COVID-19. Normally, this person sees their grandma at church. But since they can't go to church right now, since churches are shut down and they're having to alter their services every single week, they haven't seen grandma. And so people are not going to see loved ones. A lot of people are having Zoom conference calls with family members. My family had one about a week ago. I heard an interview of Sean Payton, who just recovered from COVID-19, and he was on the Rich Eisen show recently. I believe it was on Thursday afternoon, where he was saying that, Wednesday afternoon, he was saying that with his team, with his with the preparation for the NFL draft, they're doing Zoom conference calls with their scouts. Scouts are at home. He's in a remote location, a hideaway, not at home, but a location that's set aside for him and certain personnel of the front office to meet and to get together, and they're just doing things via Zoom because that's the best they can do. It's what they had to do to get the job done. Doing FaceTime calls with potential draftees, those players that'll be in the NFL draft. Not just the sports world, but our personal lives as well. They're shook. They're shaken. In Indianapolis, and I read an article today that said that they're boarding up basketball hoops and shutting down basketball courts because of the outbreak of COVID-19. A lot of uncertainty. A lot of questions. People really just want some sense of normalcy. Some sense of knowing that things are going to be back to normal, the norm. Sports will go back. They'll be able to go out with their friends on the weekends or after work sometimes. They'll be able to go out and get a drink or watch a basketball game or watch Little League baseball or go to church and to congregate with the people that they love so much. We don't know what's going to happen, but ultimately, one thing I would encourage all of you to do, reach out to those people you may not have talked to in quite a while because they mentally may be struggling right now during this difficult time in our country and in our world because nobody knows what's going to happen next. I'm not going to predict what's going to happen next because honestly, I don't know, and I'm not going to act like I know. Let's go ahead and take a trip to Black River, New York, because Garrett Grandy, a lifelong Patriots fan, has something to say about Tom Brady leaving New England. Hey, Garrett, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, no problem, Garrett, no problem. I got a quick question to ask you before we get into sports about what's going on right now, especially with NFL free agency. Are you and your wife the people that are hoarding the toilet paper?
We try not to. I actually had some extra that I gave to a neighbor, had their family, had some kids, and then about a couple days later, some more showed up on our doorstep. So, sowing and reaping, God takes care of us and provides our needs, and
He does. Nice.
When we take care of others. So, but like I said, we hoarded some other things maybe that we shouldn't have. Like we hoarded some soda, we hoarded some canned goods and stuff. So, but I think the reason being people maybe thought that they were, things were going to get shut down, but they're realizing now that, they don't need 50 rolls of toilet paper.
I mean, it's kind of understandable to a degree. Almost said our city, our country has never gone through anything like this ever. Especially those of us that are alive now. You had World War I, World War II, where things were different all across the country. But us living now, most of us that are working, we've never lived through anything like this ever in our lives. And so when you hear about an outbreak, a disease, a virus, the media, and the TV station, that's all they're talking about. Of course, you're going to act in a way that you never thought you would. So I try to be reasonable with everybody to a degree at some point, but you want to hoard toilet paper or buy up all the meat. Like, it's kind of weird. I've also heard, I don't know if you've heard this, I also heard that people are spraying bleach on their produce because they're afraid of getting the virus from the produce. What's that?
No, nothing. I heard you. Yeah, they're. Is that even? That's even gonna make it edible anymore?
No, it won't. It won't. But that's what people are saying. They're like, people are acting so out of line and acting so not thinking, using their brain before even the produce. Rinse your produce off. There's proper ways to clean it off and get some germs off of it before you eat it. I thought that was normal, but I guess not. But yeah, when things go a little bit different in our country and in our lives, we do act in ways that we probably wouldn't, because we don't know what's going to happen next. And this is what COVID-19 has brought to us. And since COVID-19 is in our country, there are a couple people in sports, basketball specifically, that recently tested positive for it. One being Doris Burke, the other being James Dolan. What was your first response when you heard about these two people testing positive for the virus?
Well, I think that it shows, that when it comes to these things, nobody is, safe. Anybody can be affected by it, whether they're, rich or poor, and, in media or not, or just regular folks. I mean, this is affecting all of us. And though we don't particularly agree with a lot of things that James Dolan does, we don't, as human beings, we don't want anybody to be hurt or affected in a negative way through a situation like this. Of course, it seems to be affecting people that have traveled, or are in contact with several different people, or people that have traveled. I'm sure with Doris Burke, that's the way it is. She's always interviewing people. She's around people. So I'm sure that's how she became affected through that, and in contact with these other people that have had it. But, I just hope and pray that, we can get through this together. And, I certainly miss sports altogether, live sports and stuff, and watching old clips is nice, but definitely looking forward to the day that we can get back to watching some sports and these playoffs that were supposed to be starting now. Hopefully we'll get that going soon. But with these two, and some of the players, I know there's actually in baseball now and hockey now, of course, and I don't know if I've heard of any. I think Sean Payton, had it and is recovering. But a lot more in the NBA, it seems like, are being affected by it. I don't know if that's due to the them traveling more, maybe because the NBA is more of an international sport, then you're dealing with more people traveling and passing this virus around. But hopefully very soon, these people will recover and we can recover and get back to some sort of normalcy.
Yeah, I agree. I know one thing with the NBA, with it trying to expand to be a global game, and China being very, very big with basketball. Kobe Bryant is very, very popular over there. Dwayne Wade, Klay Thompson, players that are here. They play in the NBA, but then they go overseas and branch out. I know Dwayne Wade's shoes are big over in China. I think Klay Thompson signed a shoe deal over in China. And the NBA every single year is trying to expand and have more and more games overseas. not just China, but over in Europe and even down in Mexico and other places. They're trying to really not just make it a U.S. game, but make it more global. One thing that was one of David Stern's things was he wanted to expand the brand. He wanted to expand around, not just outside, not just inside of the borders of our country, but also go outside of the country to expand. There were at one point 2 teams in Canada. Now there's 1. Would love to see another team north of the border there. But I mean, it's one of those things that when you hear of a Doris Burke, when you hear of a James Dolan testing positive, no matter what you think about James Dolan, you may think he's a horrible owner. You may think that he's a horrible human being. No matter what you think about the guy, you may think he's good at his job. Most people, the consensus on Doris Burke is she is one of the best color commentators in basketball, not just in the NBA, but basketball as a whole. She's very good at her job, no matter if it's a color commentating or if it's her interviewing or sideline reporting. She's very, very good. And actually, with those 2 people, not just and then there were others in the NBA Association that have been tested positive, but this may be a sign of Adam Silver saying, hey, we may have to back off on our global game for a year, maybe a year and a half, until we're very, very sure that down the road, you may agree with this as well, Garrett, but that we're very, very sure that our players are safe, and that if they go over there, they won't accidentally or bring something over to our country that can harm our country. We've had viruses that are way more vicious than this coronavirus, COVID-19, and that's been stated. That's factual. But you never want to actually have the chance to say, hey, maybe Dwayne Wade or whoever, someone go over there to be an ambassador, bring something back over, and it does really affect our country in a worse way than what this has already affected our country so far. How would you maybe view possibly the global game of the NBA being affected?
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you that I think that Adam Silver, he has to examine the landscape, the owners. They have to, decide how they're going to move forward here. We don't know whether or not we're going to finish the season. It sounds like they want to, but we really aren't sure. And but when it comes to the global game, I think I agree with you that we need to kind of back off and focus on player safety, the safety of obviously owners now and commentators and the fans, us, and really consider how they're going to adjust and how they're going to move forward. That's what we want to do. I think that's what they want to do. They want to play. They want to get back to playing. I think it was Mark Cuban who said, even if we have to play in empty arenas, just to give people something to look forward to, give them some glimmer of hope of normalcy. And if we have to do that, then that's what they'll do. And to keep the players safe, keep the fans safe. I totally agree with you. I think we need to keep those, there's some travel restrictions obviously now anyway, maybe keep those going for some time until there's a real drop off in the number of people that are becoming infected. And we haven't really seen that yet. And we've seen it in other countries where they have reached their peak and they're coming in, even in China, they're getting back to work, most of the people, and because they reached their peak. But we haven't seen that yet in the U.S. We're still dealing with large numbers of people being tested positive every day now. And especially where I'm living in New York, and most NBA teams are playing in major cities. And so, you have to be careful that you don't, spread it into these major, furthermore into these major cities more than it already is. The goal is to obviously contain it and stop the spread, and then we can hopefully, have some people recover, and hopefully they can figure out some sort of a vaccination that will work. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think we need to stick within our country if we some sort of way, and then slowly, very slowly, begin to bring it back internationally.
Yeah, you mentioned Mark Cuban talking about how he could possibly move forward from this situation that our country is in, the sports world is in. I'm literally right now watching. I mean, NASCAR's not racing, but they're racing virtually and they're broadcasting that on cable. I mean, that's how shook up our world is. We're trying to find we're trying to find any sort of competition to watch. I had one guy on the podcast. He said that he watches competitive cooking. I was like, competitive cooking? Like, I understood what he was talking about, but it's more like that's your outlet, that's your avenue to move forward and to try to get some type of competition in your life. Mark Q mentioned moving forward. We're going to transition from basketball and the virus to football. And your team, the New England Patriots, has to move forward. Now, I am happy that Tom Brady is no longer there. I thought he was going to be in New England still. He went down to Tampa Bay, which may have been a very odd place to go. Now, no state tax. I mean, I get that. When you're making millions, if you can make some more money and not have to pay, if you can pay less taxes, so be it. What was your initial reaction with you being a lifelong Patriots fan with Tom Brady leaving your favorite team?
Put it this way. Have you ever gone through a very serious, horrible breakup? And then you realize that person that you were with had left the relationship a long time ago, and it was inevitable. I think that's kind of what I think about with Tom Brady. And I don't even think it's Tom Brady and the fans. I don't think it's Tom Brady and the Patriots as a whole, as a brand. I don't think it's Tom Brady and Robert Kraft. I think we saw this coming many years ago, but we'll say 3 years ago with Jimmy G being drafted, and Belichick wanted to put him in there. And, of course, I think, there was probably some bite back from Robert Kraft, and we can argue whether or not it was a good decision to trade him or not. But the thing is, I think obviously as a player, if you've been loyal and faithful as Brady has, and taking as many pay cuts as he has over the years for the betterment of the team, then that's going to rub you the wrong way. And but for me, at first it was the sadness, it was the nostalgia, it was the I mean, I'm sure you can relate when Manning left and went to the Broncos. You have this shock, even though you kind of knew it was coming.
I was hoping you didn't bring that up. Seriously, I mean, it still hurts.
I bet it does, because you don't want to see him in another uniform. It's like he is ours. He's mine. He's our player. He represented us, our city, our team. He won with us. He lost with us. He, some injuries. So did Brady. Had a year off, and so you see the ups and downs. You see the both were drafted by the Colts and Patriots, and both matured, and both were rookies and made their mistakes and grew up, and you see all that, and both of us being closer to 30, grew up with both of them and watching them and saw their whole career, so we can kind of relate to this idea of this maturing and watching them grow. And so and I don't think it's similar in a way. There are some similarities, but I don't think it's totally similar when it comes to Manning and the Colts, because I think Manning, and I don't think he ever had a bad relationship with Tony Dungy, and Tony Dungy's a totally different type of personality than Belichick is.
True, true.
Very true. But I think that it's good. It's good in a way for both parties involved, because Brady is 43. How many years has he left? I'm assuming that like he said, he wants to play to his 45. It looks like he's going to play to his 45, unless he gets mauled down there in Tampa, which I don't think their offensive line is very great. But
no, not at all.
So that's what kind of shocked me. I really thought the Chargers. I wasn't the only one that thought that. I think that was kind of almost a universal belief that if he's not going to stay in New England, he's going to go to L.A. He's going to go to California. I mean, that's where he's from. He's going to go out that way, and he's going to take over That's a very talented team. I think even maybe more so talented overall when it comes to both sides of the ball than the Bucks. But like you said, there were some different things, some family things. He wanted to stay on the East Coast. The taxes probably play a role. I mean, it's Florida. Who doesn't want to go to Florida when you're getting older and retire in Florida? Um, but it hurts, and but I mean, it's also an exciting thing because you want to see what the future is going to hold. And I mean, goodness gracious, I think Brady realizes this, and I think we talked about this months ago, that really, when you look at the AFC, you have the Ravens and you have the Chiefs. Very young, very talented, and Mahomes, to me, with his situation, he could win. He could win a couple more rings. Does Brady really want to compete in the AFC with the Mahomes with a Ravens team that just got better on defense as well? And of course, we're talking about Lamar Jackson, who's not even, I think he's 21, 22. He's got another 10, 15 years left, as long as he stays healthy. Same with Mahomes. And then you've got some other teams in the AFC that are really challenging the Patriots finally for that top spot. And the Patriots were getting old at receiver. I mean, you look at the receiving core. I mean, you had Edelman, but Edelman's been hurt the last several years. He's nearing 34, which is old for a receiver. And our tight end, the best tight end we have is Ben Watson, who's 39. And you had the Antonio Brown situation where Brady really loved Antonio Brown, it seemed like, and then Antonio Brown is gone, and that was his main weapon. Then Josh Gordon had his situation; he left. And really, who else did he have? N'Keal Harry, but he's a rookie. And Brady's at the stage, and I think Manning was the same way. They were both at the stage to say, "Hey, I don't want to be a developer. I need guys that are ready to go. I'm on my last, rope. I need to have some guys that are seasoned, they're ready to go, that are healthy, and can separate and can get open, and I don't have to do as much." When you're younger, I mean, Manning could do it all when he was younger, but we saw later on his arm strength kind of depleted, some of the accuracy. Same thing with Brady. People want to say that, they want to deny it that Brady's dropped off, but he certainly statistically, his accuracy, his arm strength, there was some drop off there. And so I think Brady sees that. He realizes that. So he's got to say, hey, where can I go that has weapons? But I also think coaching is a huge thing. And Bruce Arians is a phenomenal coach. I think he worked with Peyton Manning for some time. He worked with Roethlisberger for some time. So he's coached some of these big name guys. And so I think it seems like it's going to be a good fit for him. And of course you may have heard this, but there were some rumors that Brady wanted some more control of the offense. Yes,
I did hear that.
Making decisions, and you know as well as I do that Belichick ain't going to give up any control to anyone.
No, not at all.
It doesn't matter. Like we always say, Belichick. It doesn't matter if you're there for 20 years. He's going to make the decision that he believes is best, and it's not going to be sentimental. He's let that they're fan favorites for years. You can go back to the early 2000s. Mike Vrabel left. You have Lawyer Malloy. There's so many players that were Terry Glenn.
Man, the one that shocked me was Vince Wilfork. Yep. Because he still had a lot left in the tank.
And so, but see, the thing is, Malcolm Butler left. I mean, you can go down the line. He is not going to pay players like anybody else. We know this. I can't think of any player recently that they have signed to a massive deal. I mean, look at this year alone. Look at all the players that are leaving. Kyle Van Noy is gone. There was a few others that left. Landon Roberts. I think Philip Dorsett just went to the Seahawks. There's Trey Flowers last year. You can go name after name after name after name. where we're going to get their money's worth, they're gone because he's not going to pay them. And Brady, I think, finally said enough is enough. I want to get paid. I want to get my and it doesn't seem to me that Belichick wanted to give him his due because it's Belichick's team, and I think Robert Kraft understands that. We could debate who's more valuable, but that's something to think about. Who's more valuable in a situation like this? But it hurt, it shocked me, but I don't think it was just as a surprise as we all thought it would be. I think we were surprised what team he went to, but not so much the fact that he left.
Have you ever thought about making your own podcast? It seems like that's the in thing right now. Well, do I have the people for you? Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and extremely easy to use. And now, Anchor will match with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid for podcasting right away. To get started, go to anchor.fm/start. Once again, that's anchor.fm/start.
Yeah, I know. Three things, just piggybacking off of what you said. The one difference between Manning leaving the Colts and then Brady leaving the Patriots, Manning had just come back off of a year-long injury where he missed an entire season. The Colts won literally 2 games. Trash.
Right.
It was horrendous.
Yeah.
I think we literally called Kerry Collins up from off his living room couch and said, "Hey man, come play for us." I mean, it was bad. It was embarrassing. I'm living here. I'm like, hold on, this isn't the Colts team I grew up watching. Even when we're bad, we win 11. I mean, literally, when the Colts were bad at that time, when they had Manning, we won 10, 11 games and won the division. I mean, it was that simple. But Manning, he just came off of missing the entire year, and then Irsay let go of him. That was Clark. Some guys on the defense. I think that was at around the same time Dwight Freeney left. He let go of like 7 to 10 guys that were there almost the entirety of the run of Peyton Manning being great and the Colts being great. And so it didn't just hurt. It hurt for Manning being gone, but it hurt more because you're literally saying we're starting over. We don't know what's going to happen next. And as a fan, I was like, this is not what I want to be here. I don't want to watch this. I don't know what's going to happen next. I hate the uncertainty, just like what's going on in our country. I hate it. And so that's one of the two things. Brady's not hurt. His stats are going down, but he's not hurt. Manning, however, Irsay said, we're moving on from you because we don't know if you're going to throw the football again. And then we see that over the next 4 years, he went to the Super Bowl twice, won once, and the rest is history. Brady going to the Buccaneers, the one thing that I think is going to be a big hiccup, and I don't even know if he'll be able to win the division this year, you're playing the Saints, and they have possibly the best secondary in the NFL, and they just keep getting better. So I'm going to be very, very curious. Yes, Brady has Chris Godwin. Brady has Mike Evans. Maybe O.J. Howard, the tight end, which Brady loves tight ends. Maybe O.J. Howard stays healthy this year. Nobody knows. But, yeah. I mean, they have players. But will that be enough? Will Brady at, 43 years old be enough to get past Drew Brees and the Saints? You could say Drew Brees is old as well. Yes, he is. His numbers aren't the best. Okay, whatever you want to say about Brees, that secondary, nobody wants to play with them. And barring a couple of years ago against the Rams, if they call that pass interference, Drew Brees probably would have won a Super Bowl that year. And then last year, granted, I mean, it was Kirk Cousins, Kyle Rudolph with the touchdown in the end zone in overtime. And I think that you and I were recording that same day with Ronnie.
Yep,
as crazy as
it was
is.
happening. Yep.
But yes. But if you think about it, 2 years ago, Drew Brees could possibly win a Super Bowl when they should have called a pass interference. Last year, a better defended play, Kirk Cousins to Kyle Rudolph may not have happened. And then we would look at Drew Brees in a whole different light than we do currently, based off of how his season ended over the past 2 years. And then this may be the year, Garrett, you're not going to like this. This may be the year the Bills win the division and the Patriots do not. I hate to be that guy to say it, but it may actually happen this year.
Look at the Bills. I mean, I'm in total agreement with you. We were only a couple games ahead of them. Barring a few boneheaded Josh Allen mistakes. They probably could have won one, if not both of the games that we played against them. The Bills are a force to be reckoned with. You're talking about a team that, if we look back to the playoffs, had a 16-0 lead against the Texans on the road. And like I say, Josh Allen, if he continues to mature and grow and learn how to not make these mistakes, throw the ball away, that is one thing that guys like Brady, Rodgers, they are phenomenal at knowing when to throw it away and saying this play is not going to work, or checking it down. That's something that Josh Allen's going to need to grow in. But they just added Stephon Diggs. You still have, I don't know, Frank Gore is the ageless wonder. He still might come back. I haven't heard any rumors of him retiring. He is a good running back. And you also, you've got some other pieces there. Is it Brown? Is it John Brown? John Brown?
Mm-hmm.
John Brown.
Yeah. John Brown.
I said Jim Brown. Jim Brown's the running back for Cleveland. Yeah. Jim Brown, not Jim Brown. John Brown, of course, and he's quick and talented. I think they still have Cole Beasley, who's a decent slot receiver. Their tight end, Dawson Knox, came on strong last year. Is only going to get better. Defensively, they're going to get better. Of course, they're defensively were phenomenal last year, and young and fast. I don't think, people want to say the Patriots will just kind of fall off the cliff. I don't think they'll do that. I think Belichick is too proud to let them just die off the cliff next year. Will they compete? Yes. Probably not win as many games. I'm not ready to make a prediction yet. But I told you, I think, through message that I'm 100% positive they will stick with Jarrett Stidham. I do believe they will stick with Jarrett Stidham. And man, you talk about a difficult situation, a division. Miami has gotten a ton better on defense with Van Noy and some others that they signed. And I don't know. We'll see about the Jets. The Jets are the Jets. But we'll just leave that alone. But the Bills defensively are going to give Stidham all kinds of issues. I don't even know about our offensive line. I think, as last year, as we saw, defensively, can they win some games? Absolutely. But if you look at the Patriots' schedule next year, I don't know if you've seen it, but it is a murderer's row, man. It is really difficult. You have the Bills twice, the improved Dolphins they have to play. I think they play Kansas City. I think they play Baltimore. They play Seattle. They play there's some other teams at Pittsburgh, I believe. There's some teams in there that you're like, wow, this schedule is going to be really tough. And so I agree with you that I do think the Bills will win the division next year. It would not shock me in the slightest if the Patriots don't even make the playoffs. Maybe 8-8. I could give them some games defensively, just because you look at the Patriots as a whole. There's some guys there that are they're stud players on defense. They can get you some games. But, man, the Bills probably win another 10, 11 games. There's some – and I think you'll see some of the same teams in the top of the AFC. Like, I think it'll come down to the Chiefs and the Ravens. We'll see what the Colts do with Rivers. But I totally agree with you that, man, it's the Bill. If there's ever a chance for the Bills to win the division, it's now. You would hope so if I was a fan of the Bills. It's our opportunity to win the division and see if we can't, challenge for one of those. Actually, I think it's only one bye, right? I think they changed the format, going to 17 games, and I think that takes effect this year. 17 games they're going to be playing, and so.
No, this year they add the playoff team. It's with one bye in the playoffs. The 17th game does not start until.
Okay.
The 2021 season. So you have one more year of 16 games, and then 17 games.
Okay.
After the one
so I
coming
take
up.
that back. But yes, the Bills. I totally agree. And like you said, and I want to agree with what you said about the Saints. When it comes back, we're talking about Brady and the Bucks. It is no guarantee that just because you add a Tom Brady, a 43-year-old Tom Brady, that you're going to go ahead and all of a sudden you're going to be Super Bowl contenders and you're going to just go right past the Saints. Like you said, the Saints were one miraculous play away from getting to the Super Bowl. You're talking the Stephon Diggs, Minnesota miracle there, and you have the horrible, egregious pass interference call, non-call. So you're talking about that, and then of course, I think one thing that haven't addressed, and I want them to address it in the NFL, is the overtime rules. You've got to give these guys a chance for both teams to have the ball, regardless of whether or not the first team scores a touchdown, because who knows what would have happened with Minnesota and the Saints if Drew Brees gets an opportunity to get the ball. Maybe he did this time around, but I still think that they need to really look at those rules. But I agree with you with the Bills, and I agree with you with the Saints. That secondary, that defense. They added did they add Emmanuel Sanders too? The Saints.
What team?
I think they added Emmanuel Sanders.
I forget. He went somewhere else. I forget where he went.
If you want to check that for me, but yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, give me a second.
And if that's the case, my goodness, Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Jared Cook, Alvin Kamara, and that defense, I don't think anybody would disagree that they're the favorites in the NFC. And it's the Saints.
Yeah, it's the Saints. It is the Saints. March 20th, signed a 2-year, $16 million contract.
Everybody wants to, and they signed Breeze for 2 more years. Everybody wants to talk about Brady, and everybody wants to talk about the Bucs. But the Saints are right there saying, hey, what about us here, man? I can't wait to see. Those games are going to be phenomenal. Some of the Saints and Buccaneers still in that division. You said the Falcons just signed Todd Gurley. We'll see what happens with them. They were cute. Yeah,
he's got to stay healthy, man.
But that division,
he has to stay healthy.
I would argue that outside of maybe the AFC North, that division there has the best set of quarterbacks. Matt Ryan, Brady, Breeze, and Bridgewater. And you got Teddy Bridgewater now the Panthers, and the Panthers aren't no joke neither. So that division is, maybe the best division in football now. We might have to consider that. We'll see. Maybe not as good as the NFC West. That they're still, but the NFC as a whole, I would say the Saints are definitely the favorite. And the Buccaneers having to play them twice a year. I mean, good luck. We'll see about that,
Yeah, Garrett, I'm gonna switch from the NFC South to the AFC South. A guy that you have been questioning for a while, ever since this transaction took place with a trade with a player going from Houston to Arizona. I'm going to try to get back to the NFC South here in a second, but I know you really want to talk about DeAndre Hopkins and Bill O'Brien. What were your thoughts when that trade went down?
Let's see. What on earth are you thinking? Man, I think that might be one of the worst trades I have ever seen in my life. That DeAndre Hopkins is an all-world, all-pro receiver. Some would argue the best receiver in football. If you look at the intangibles and stuff, Michael Thomas, I would probably put him first. But, you're talking second. DeAndre Hopkins, my goodness, that guy, the ability to go get the football. He's got some speed, the talent, and you traded him. I think they trade him for the running back there, David Johnson.
Yeah, they got a second-round pick, a fourth-round pick, and David Johnson.
David Johnson can't stay on the football. He's been on the football field as much as I have, which is none. So, that goes to show you, the thinking there. And from what I heard, and you may have heard this as well, and I heard this through, if you watch ESPN and these other networks, when Bill O'Brien met with DeAndre Hopkins, he basically, said that talking about his personal life and saying that, he was a troublemaker and getting into his issues with his family, and he's been, divorced and remarried and things, and he's got but I've never heard one time any issues with DeAndre Hopkins. I believe I forget who he related him to. It might have been Antonio Brown, but there was some relation.
No, it was
Aaron
Hernandez.
Okay. Yeah, even worse. My goodness, the guy's a murderer, and you're going to compare DeAndre Hopkins, who's I don't think he's ever been suspended and never been in trouble for anything, to him. Up until this year, people would look at Bill O'Brien and say, hey, that's a good coach. And now you look at him and say, what are you doing? I mean, you had the collapse in the playoffs, and then you've got this trade. Who knows what he's thinking? If I'm looking at the Texans and I'm the owner, I'm thinking, man, what do we got to do here? And I've heard rumors about Deshaun Watson wanting to leave. I've heard rumors of him. You might laugh at this, but I've heard rumors of him going to the Patriots, and I think that's kind of wild and crazy. But yes,
who going to the Patriots?
That's
Deshaun Watson?
Rumor that has been thrown around that they'll be willing to sign him and make some trades. I highly doubt that. But
oh boy!
But what does that show you? It shows you that what is Deshaun Watson thinking? There were some reactions on Twitter from some of the players that were negative to this trade, going, "What is going on?" I mean, think about if you're Deshaun Watson. I mean, you talk about a weapon like Hopkins. Now he's gone. Now who do you have a receiver? I mean, you've got I can't think of his name off the top of my head right now, but he's injury. The other receiver there for the Texans, Kenny Stills. But there's the other guy there, it'll come to me. But he's very good. But man, he's not a DeAndre Hopkins. He's basically the sidekick to DeAndre Hopkins, and I can't think of who it is right now. But anyways, I mean, I don't know what your reaction was to it. Maybe the same as mine, saying, "What are you thinking?" Thank you,
Will Fuller. It wasn't Kenny Stills. It was Will Fuller.
Will Fuller's great,
well,
but
they're both there.
Nobody is going to say he is not DeAndre Hopkins. When DeAndre Hopkins, and you probably had a celebration, man, because as a Colts fan, if there's anybody you want to get rid of, it is DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, how much more of a shot do you have in these games? And that, I think right now, that division is totally different with Hopkins gone. I mean, you're talking about the games with the Colts and Texans, the Jaguars. Obviously, I think Foles is with the Bears now, and so we'll see the Uncle Rico there, as I call him, as he's known, Gardner Minshew. That division is going to be up for grabs. I think the Colts, to me, are the favorites in that division now that Hopkins is gone. To me, I look at it and I say, you just made your team worse. Now, granted, we don't know who will be selected with these second and fourth round picks, but I think with Hopkins, he's been top 5 for years. I think he's only 27, 28 years old, so he's still got several years left of some serious production, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in that division. But I had to look at that and say, what are you thinking, man?
Yeah, I think with Bill O'Brien, he just got promoted to general manager, and I think the owner already has been at a difficult spot because you're an expansion team. You come in. I think it was David Carr at the time they drafted. Said, "Oh, we got a quarterback. We can get behind him. We can win." No, he's trash. He's horrible, and they couldn't get away from him. And then you're in a division with Peyton Manning. Manning leaves. You get Andrew Luck. The Colts. Every single time we go down there, almost every time. Now I think last year we lost to them down in Houston, but most of the time the Colts win down in Houston. And so you're thinking, okay, as an owner, I'm trying to find a way here to get this thing going, get the ball rolling, to be successful, to be respected in the league. I can't be the biggest name in my own state with the Cowboys. There's no way that's going to happen. The Cowboys are a national brand, a global brand. That's not going to change. Jerry Jones has done a phenomenal job of marketing and branding that franchise to being what it is today. So you already have, and me personally, I'm indifferent with Bill O'Brien. He came from Penn State, got the job with the Texans. Okay, cool. They got it. What have you done?
Nothing.
Not much.
Nothing.
Andrew Luck's not there in your division. What have you done? Yeah, you won the division last year, I believe, but you haven't done anything. So you're an okay coach. I mean, you're worthy enough to be in the NFL to be a coach. But once you get to that level that you're a division winner or you're a wild card team, you got to start making steps to be better. And he has not done that. He's just been mediocre. And then all of a sudden, the owner's like, well, maybe this is going to be a splash for us to actually be better, to at least have a chance to get better and be more respected. I'm going to promote my head coach who literally just showed me this year that he can't manage a clock. He can't manage a team. I'm going to promote him to general manager. So I'm going to have a head coach, general manager, one guy. Belichick does it. So how about we have Bill O'Brien do it? So he does that, and all of a sudden, what happens? He makes a boneheaded decision, and then in that decision, he makes a statement. And I don't know if you watched this show, Garrett, but Last Chance U, the past 2 seasons on Netflix, they had a head coach. I forget his name, but he was very, very crude, very rude. He grew up, I believe, in Compton. He tried to bring that Compton lifestyle to his coaching lifestyle, but he didn't. He was very, very mean and it was actually got into a fight on the field with an opposing coach. Was about to fight his players. The players didn't respect him. I mean, it was bad. Now, Bill O'Brien is not that guy. He's not going to go off the deep end to, hopefully he won't go to it and try to get into a physical altercation with the player. But what Bill O'Brien is doing, what he just did, is by relating DeAndre Hopkins to Aaron Hernandez, what he is doing is he's not just losing respect with other people around the league, people in the front office that may want to hire him one day, or people in college that may say, "Hey, bring him back to college. We want to hire him to lead our program again." What he's also doing is he's messing up his locker room. And we talk about locker room guys, guys that are good locker room guys or they're bad locker room guys. That doesn't just go to the players. That also goes to the head coaches. And Bill O'Brien, he's showing right now that if he doesn't change his attitude really, really quickly and try to fix a relationship that he's already basically lost with Deshaun Watson, he's going to be put into a situation as a bad locker room guy, because no head coach, position coach don't matter for an office owner. Nobody should say those things about a person in their franchise, because ultimately you do that, you're basically saying, I don't care about you. I don't care about the team. I'm going to make these statements, and I don't care how they are received, if they're well received or if they're rejected immediately. I am not going to accept them at all. And honestly, Garrett, Bill O'Brien, to me, he's, no matter how the season goes, he could very well be one of those guys that wins 10 games, which I don't think is going to happen, but he could win 10 games and then find his way out of the franchise, because he's losing his locker room right now.
There's certain spirit about a team when you have camaraderie, and when you break that up, that is going to really affect your quarterback, especially a young quarterback. Every great quarterback has their, you call them your security blanket. Manning had Marvin Harrison. There's a few Reggie Wayne. Brady had Edelman. He's with the Bucs now, obviously, but he had Edelman, had Gronk. Roethlisberger had Antonio Brown and Bell. You can go down the list. And Watson, when you think of Watson, you think of Hopkins. And, you don't think of Fuller. You don't think of these other guys. But you think of Hopkins, and now he doesn't have that. He doesn't have his security blanket. He doesn't have that relationship. He has to build a whole new relationship with some of these other guys, and that is going to be very frustrating for him and create that division. And another thing that I thought of while you were talking was the Texans were right there in the scope of the AFC. And what do you want to do is you want to get better, not worse. If you're going to get over the hump, if you're going to compete with the Chiefs, you're going to compete with the Ravens, you're going to compete with these elite teams in the AFC, the last thing you want to do is get rid of your best receiver. I mean, they went into KC and beat them in KC during the regular season. They had a 24-0 lead on the road in Kansas. In Kansas City, was it in the divisional round? So you're talking, you were right there right there, just to like I said, like you said, he's not a good good game manager, clock manager, decision maker during the scope of a game, but you were right there, up 24-0, ready to punch your ticket to the AFC Championship game, get over that hump, to the next level, and then the offseason comes and, let's trade banged up David Johnson, get rid of our best receiver, and which makes us basically a middle of the pack team. I don't even put them in the elite teams anymore. I put them in the middle of the pack now. Well, I mean, Deshaun Watson is a great quarterback, a great talent. Probably maybe will win an MVP someday of the league, and he's that talented. And of course, we all agree that if he hadn't gotten hurt a couple years back, probably would have won the MVP. So he's right there, talent-wise. But is he somebody that's he's gonna win a Super Bowl single-handedly without hardly any help? No, he's not. And shame on Bill O'Brien for doing that, like you said, creating that division in the locker room, creating that division between you and your quarterback. And I totally agree with you. He could go out and win 10 games, but if you want to win and get over the hump, are you going to get it done with Bill O'Brien? Probably not. Probably not. You're going to have to start looking somewhere else because, hey, my quarterback's still young, but he's only getting older, and we don't want to waste the years of his prime on a coach, a boneheaded coach, in my opinion. It just fires me up a little bit because I look at Watson. I think he's a great guy. I root for him. I want him to do well. And you got this coach who's basically stripping away his talent around him, and that just makes me mad for the sake of Deshaun Watson. Absolutely.
Yeah, very, very quickly, Garrett, we're almost out of time. This recently, I think it was this past Tuesday, Matt Rule, new head coach, of course, with meetings with the GM, but Matt Rule, new head coach of the Panthers, going back to the NFC South this time like I was hoping to try and do. Cam Newton, injuries have been a problem with him. League MVP. Yes, he didn't. Yes, in the Super Bowl, biggest game of the year, yes, he didn't dive on the ball. Everyone talks about, he didn't dive on the ball. Okay, great. Yeah, didn't happen. Yeah, I completely understand that. But Cam Newton is a guy, very physical. I mean, he's very imposing when you look at him. Very big, broad shoulder, strong guy. But a guy that, with his injuries and Matt Rule coming in, new head coach, the Panthers are parting ways. Now, the Panthers may have been at fault at this, as Cam Newton did go to Instagram. I don't know verbatim what he said, but he did say this is kind of your fault. You guys did this. First, they said they were going to trade him. Now they cut him. I'm kind of confused with Cam Newton. Not that I don't like the guy. I think he was good. I don't know how he'll play this upcoming year, simply because coming off of the injuries that he's had, and with the quarterback landscape the way that it is, I'd probably take an Andy Dalton over Cam Newton. And if you look at their career, their numbers are very close to being identical. Now, Andy Dalton doesn't really get hurt like that. Andy Dalton is a mediocre quarterback. But Cam Newton, career-wise, yeah, they're similar. But Cam Newton at his peak is that guy. He's going to be very, very good. But I don't know. I personally don't know what to expect from Cam Newton next season. I'm sure the Panthers realized that as well. And they said, hey, we're going to just let him go. What kind of observations, or what did you think quickly about Cam Newton getting cut? It didn't
surprise me, just due to his, massive amounts of injuries and obviously the success that I think it was Kyle Allen had for some time there. He kind of nosedived at the end there. I think that's why they went and got Bridgewater, because they said, well, Kyle Allen was playing so well, but now he's been so inconsistent. So they'll probably slot him into the backup role behind Bridgewater. My thing is that surprises me is, yes, look at Cam. Yes, look at his injuries. But bringing in a guy like Bridgewater, who has had a history of injuries himself, it's almost a very similar kind of player, which surprised me that they would go and get Bridgewater. Why not take a look at a Andy Dalton, or a different style of quarterback than what you have had for the last 5, 6, I don't know how many years he's been. How long is Cam Newton? 7, 8 years now. Wow, I didn't realize
I think it's actually close to 10 or 11.
I remember when Auburn winning the national
Time
championship.
flies when you're having fun, Garrett.
I think that was 2011. So you're right. Yeah, 9 years. Yep. So, that's what kind of surprised me, bringing in Bridgewater, similar style. But I agree with you that if I'm a GM and I need a quarterback, and I look at who's left. You've got Bridgewater. I mean, not Bridgewater. You've got Cam Newton, Dalton, Jameis Winston. Who am I going to take? I don't know if I'm going to take Cam. I mean, you're talking about a former MVP, but the guy can't stay healthy. He doesn't shut his mouth.
No.
We talk about locker room. Do we want to bring in a guy who is kind of controversial? He's kind of in your face. He's going to speak his mind. If I'm like you, if I'm looking at my options here, do I want Jameis Winston through 30 interceptions? So if I'm going to look at my list, I'm going to go Dalton first and say let's give Andy Dalton a shot. The guy, as far as I know, stays on the field. The team around him was horrendous. They can't stay healthy for nothing. The Bengals. Yeah.
That front office doesn't know what they're doing.
The years in which they had some talent, Andy Dalton played well. But of course, like you said, the front office, there's some people in charge that they couldn't help him get over the hump. So I'd like to, it'd be nice to see Andy Dalton get a chance somewhere else. But certainly, I totally agree with you in closing that, as a preacher would say, in conclusion, in conclusion that
say it like 5 times too.
Cam Newton, we'll see. I'm going in my head of where he would end up, and I can't. Ultimately, here's my final thought on it. Do I think Cam should be a backup right now? Yes. Do I think Cam wants to be a backup and will be? No. I don't think Cam will want to be a backup. I think he would rather sit out and not even play and then be a backup somewhere. Because really all the other positions there are filled. You look at Mariota, which just went to the Raiders. You go down the line, pretty much every team has their quarterback, or is certainly, if I'm the Bengals, I am not without even a thought, because I think Burrow. When I look at Burrow, I think of first person I thought of was Peyton Manning. That's who he reminds me of. His talent, his ability, his mind, his ability to throw the football. That's who I thought of. I think he's, and then next year you got Trevor Lawrence probably coming out. So the next couple of years you're going to have some great quarterbacks coming out. So Cam Newton's in trouble. I don't know where he's going to end up, but I agree with you. I wouldn't put him as my first pick. What's left of free agents right now. So.
No, I know there was some talk recently. I'm going to close this thing up here soon. There was some talk that maybe, just maybe, Cam Newton will go to Chicago. And I don't know where I heard that at. It had to be before Nick Foles went there. But like, maybe Cam Newton could go to Chicago. And in my head, I'm thinking, could Cam Newton handle the media in Chicago? I mean, if you're losing, and the Panthers haven't been the best squad. And then, okay, cool, the media is completely different in Carolina versus Chicago. If you put Cam Newton in New England, in New York, in LA, in Chicago, Miami, maybe Miami. Miami's not as bad as LA or Chicago or New York. Right. But if you put Cam in any of those big media markets, if you put Cam in Dallas, he folds mentally. I don't think he has the mental makeup to handle that big style, the big media. Now, granted, he played at Auburn, won the national championship, but being a 21-year-old kid, they want to treat you completely different than you are when you're a grown man. You've won the MVP, you played a Super Bowl. I mean, they're going to treat you completely different and ask you more pointed questions and more questions asking you, why did you do this? Why did you make this mistake? You can be kind of shielded and kind of put back a little bit by your head coach and the people and you're at school saying, hey, yeah, he's young. Don't attack him like this. Don't ask him these kind of questions. But even if you go back to Auburn, he had issues. Like there were questions there with his recruiting, and I believe the money possibly got there to his dad. But Cam Newton, I don't think he has the makeup. And I hate comparing it because I used to actually like Cam Newton. I used to think he was a good quarterback. But then more I looked at him, and really once I started the podcast, I realized you have to look at people in a different light. And Cam's mind can't handle it. And Andy Dalton, no, I mean, yeah, you put Andy Dalton in a small market, yeah, maybe he won't mess with him. He's going to be there. Yeah, he'll make his mistakes. Yeah, he'll throw some touchdowns. You give him some good receivers on the outside, some good people behind him. Yeah, he'll make good plays. But Andy Dalton's a guy that doesn't get hurt, and it very, very, very well could be that Andy Dalton will go somewhere. Maybe he'll go back. I think he's a free agent. Maybe he'll go to the Bengals still. Maybe he'll go somewhere else. But it could be that Andy Dalton gets picked up. Thanks for clarifying that. Maybe he does get picked up somewhere before Cam Newton.
I'm glad you asked me that. I'm going to go on a limb
before we close this thing up.
Make a crazy wild prediction here. My crazy wild prediction.
I'm ready for it. Let's go.
Newton is going to go to the Steelers.
Oh boy!
I think his personality. Mike Tomlin loves crazy personalities. Look at who he had. I think the Steelers fans would fall in love with him. I really do. I don't know why. That's just my crazy thought of the day. That I think if he could possibly go and join the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because I think Roethlisberger is on it. I think he's on his last end. He can't stay healthy. Now you're dealing with arm issues. See, before, when he got hurt, it was a leg, it was an ankle, it was these leg injuries. Okay, you could still stand in there and throw the ball if you limit your mobility and get move around the pocket a little bit. But now you're dealing with an elbow, a shoulder, and so he's going to be done soon in Pittsburgh, and it would not. I'm telling you, man, I just don't know why, but Pittsburgh seems like the place that he would go because I can't think of anywhere else. If I'm the Jets owner, I'm giving him a call, but they're not going to let go on Sam Darnold because he's so young. They want to give him a chance to mature, so I don't think he'll be with the Jets. So my crazy wild prediction is Cam Newton's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. So, yeah, why not, right?
Oh my goodness! Definitely didn't see that coming.
Dak. I think.
Oh man!
We'll see what happens with Dak. Dak may hold out until he gets his money from Jerry Jones. But hey, Jerry Jones is one of those people too that say, "Okay, well, we'll just go find somebody else." So we'll see what happens there. I'm looking forward to the draft. I think this level.
Wow.
There's some quarterbacks in the draft that are going to be around for a long time. We'll see. What happens. But yeah. What about you? Any predictions? Any crazy predictions for yourself? Or no.
Not really, man. Only one that I possibly have. It's my team. I'm not really the highest on Phillip Rivers coming here, and I don't think it's going to be as good initially. First few games, first quarter of the season.
But he's not a bum.
He's not a bum. Think.
He's not a bum.
He's older. No, he's not. I just think you mentioned it with Roethlisberger injury. I just think Phillip Rivers' arm in his mind can't do it anymore.
I
personally think that's what it is. Chris
Ballard
wants to go.
Yep, there's something wrong. There's something broken there with him. I don't think it's talent-wise. I just think that he's mentally he's not there. And maybe that had something to do with the team leaving and going to LA. Who knows? Some weird dynamics there. But I'm excited to see Phillip Rivers with the Colts. Maybe you agree or disagree with me, but I think they kind of overpaid for him. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what he does. But a 1-year contract was interesting to me. Maybe it's a trial and error. Let's see how he does.
I would 100% believe it. I believe it's trial and error because I think the other signings, the other additions via free agency that Chris Ballard has brought in GM of the Colts. I think he has a win now mindset,
Yeah,
which
you
I
guys
love
have been.
because I'm tired of this
Yep.
mediocre. Oh, we're going to be okay.
You dealt with a lot
we're
of
going
years
to be
of
8-8.
rebuilding.
No, I don't want
Andrew
that.
Luck
No, I
comes,
personally.
but Andrew Luck was hurt so much
Yes,
that
too many.
You're dealing with years and years here of, oh man, another year where he's hurt, and now we're going to be stuck being 8-8 again. And you had Brissett, and you were like, man, I think we talked about it in the middle of last year that last season, Brissett is wow. They're going to sneak into the playoffs, but then they kind of slipped off there at the end. And but yeah, I agree, trial and error right now, and I like it. I like the win now mentality. I think as a fan, if I would, if I was a fan of the Colts, I would agree with you, man. I'd be like, man, it's been a long time since we won one, 2009, and we got to try to get back there, see what we can do,
Yes, definitely, Garrett, Grandy, I appreciate you coming back on the podcast with me. We could do this all the time. We went longer than expected, but hey, I don't care.
I love it.
You don't care. We could keep going for a whole lot longer.
Had a great
Garrett,
time.
thanks
I
for
really
coming back on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it.
We know each other quite some time, and it's a good way to connect. Even having not seen one another for quite some time, but it's a good way to connect, and get some thoughts out there and discussion.
Man, that was fun. And one of the best things about the conversation was towards the end, as I was thinking, I didn't say it's to Garrett, but one thing I'm looking forward to this upcoming football season is being able to talk down and talk about how bad and how ugly it is to watch Patriots football. Now, ugly is a little stretch. I don't think it's going to be ugly, but how down and how out and how uncharacteristic that the Patriots are playing, not like the Patriots that we have watched for so many years because Tom Brady's gone. Right now, for sure looks like Jarrett Stidham is going to be the quarterback of the Patriots this upcoming year. What do we expect from him? We don't know. We don't expect much from him at all. And let me tell you, for all those years, Garrett has been able to talk down, talk bad, talk trash about my Colts, talk about how the Patriots are a better franchise, about how they have won more Super Bowls, about how the Patriots have actually been able to beat and to own the Patriots and Colts rivalry. This is the year I cannot wait. Don't believe the Patriots are going to win the division. Don't believe Tom Brady being with the Buccaneers is going to win the division. I do believe, well, Bill O'Brien, can help me out? Not saying hopefully, I do believe this will be the year that the Colts actually win their division this year. Hey, Phillip Rivers, yes, we all know you're not the guy you were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 2 years ago, or 5 years ago. We all know that, but we all know all you have to do your part, play your role. Don't do anything uncharacteristic of a role player or system quarterback that's just trying to move the chains and don't try to have too many big plays and make too many risks. Don't be that guy. Play in the role. Listen to Frank Reich, and we go in the division. Yes, I said we. It's hard saying that Phillip Rivers going to the Colts is a we, but yes, it is. Phillip Rivers will win the division. Patriots won't. Buccaneers won't. Tom Brady won't. And man, let me tell you, I cannot wait for that day that I can text Garrett Grandy and say, hey, Garrett, we won the division. What did you guys do? Thank you for listening to the episode of the Jay Stevens Podcast. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. If you happen to not be on Twitter and you want to communicate with me and the podcast, send your email to jstevenspod@gmail.com. Remember to always subscribe, rate, and review. It's a great way for people that search for new podcasts to listen to come across this one. Then remember to always get the word out about the podcast via word of mouth. The things that we enjoy in life, we're more willing and somewhat wired to tell other people about. So no matter if this was your first episode or if you have been listening since episode 1, be sure to let people know about the podcast. This has been episode 80 of the Jay Stevens Podcast. I'll see you next time.